Biodiversity and Wildlife Conservation, a presentation by Michael House. Biodiversity is a pillar of life on planet Earth. The number of organisms that can exist here is near countless, and no two organisms are the same. Unfortunately, the world is not a pleasant place to live. Not all organisms, family trees, survive the tale of time for one reason or another, whether that reason be the effect of natural causes or the effect of human interaction. As humans, we are morally obligated to preserve this biodiversity by any means necessary. This is where wildlife conservation comes in. We have done great things as a society, from making the world an easier place to live in to expanding our habitat to potentially new horizons. But we have left a path of devastation in our wake, and the goal of wildlife conservation is to mitigate that and try to save not just what we have harmed, but what the world itself is trying to make out of existence. For these reasons, we should do a better job as a society to bring light to the idea of wildlife conservation, as it impacts not just the animals we save, but everything that interacts with them, and the web of organisms is extensive. What is biodiversity? When the word biodiversity comes to mind, the assumption is that we're strictly talking about different species. However, the various species are only a small part of biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of life. This includes species diversity, genetic diversity, as well as ecological diversity. All these aspects are necessary in order to completely understand the planet's delicate balance. Genetic diversity refers to the genotype and phenotype within the species. For example, take the different breeds of dogs. While all dogs are of the same species, the genetic diversity of each individual dog dictates what breed the dog is, as well as the color and pattern of its coat. Next, we have ecological diversity. This refers to the habitat or ecosystem that acts as a home for certain species. This is why two forests can seem almost exactly the same, but the ecological diversity of each forest makes them an individual breeding ground for a separate group of species. Most researchers have estimated that we have anywhere from 3 million all the way to 30 million different species. A few researchers have even gone as far as predicting around 100 million species, even though there has only been around 1.7 million identified and recorded. Why is biodiversity so important? Biodiversity is crucial for many reasons, ranging from the obvious food supply to countless economic contributions. Our planet's diverse pollinators, plants, and various soil allow our local supermarkets to have a wide range of produce. Without this biodiversity, our options would be limited on food and materials. More importantly, biodiversity has been credited with many medical discoveries. Research into different plant and animal biology and genetics have been the source of majority for cures and diseases over a long period of time. This research is dependent on the existence of biodiversity. Every time this genetic diversity is lost or another animal goes extinct, we lose our opportunity to research and find possible vaccines or drugs to cure illness. Biodiversity also allows for ecosystems to more adequately adjust after disturbances caused by natural disasters. If an ecosystem has a variety of different species of each animal, it is easier for the forest to readily adapt after a natural disaster than it is for a forest with minimal species. There are many ecological benefits to having biodiversity, such as ecosystems that clean water and absorb chemicals. Plants also emit oxygen that humans and mammals need to breathe, and they also take in the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. Without the ecological diversity, our planet's air and water would be vastly different, causing life to be less sustainable. When it comes to the species themselves, genetic diversity helps not only prevent certain diseases, but also allows these species to more easily adjust to changes in their environment. With the ever-changing ways of our planet, it is necessary for plant and animal species to be able to adapt to their environment. However, it seems that even with all the necessary benefits of having biodiversity, we still have to make conscious efforts to protect it against the threats it faces. The threats to our planet's biodiversity come from both natural causes and the effects of human interaction. Shifts in the environment are natural and take place slowly over an extended period of time, such as an ice age. Changes in sea level also poses a threat to biodiversity. The melting of our planet's freshwater glaciers can cause the water level to rise, forcing it to take up land that's already occupied by other species. Volcanic activity emits a natural gas that can also change the chemical composition of water after it is absorbed, making the sustainability of life impossible for some species. There are many other natural causes that threaten our planet's biodiversity, including acid rain caused by sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere affecting the soil that plant life needs, and asteroids that completely destroy the impact site. This has also contributed to a mass extinction. Aside from the natural causes that threaten the planet's biodiversity, there are also many threats posed by human interaction. Human interaction is majorly responsible for the rise in present extinction rates. On a daily basis, humans drive cars, operate machinery, and work in factories. All of these daily actions result in the emission of chemicals into our atmosphere, creating pollution that dangerously affects our planet's ozone layer. This damage to our atmosphere is causing a rapid change in climate. With the increase in temperatures, our glaciers are melting and pose a threat to human health by introducing vector-borne diseases. As humans, we are vigorously trying to make our lives better, easier, and more advanced, constantly coming up with new technology and working to improve our industries. However, we are not paying attention to the path of destruction that lays behind us. We lose sight of the bigger picture and get lost in our own wants and needs without considering any consequences. The need to grow our communities pushes us to completely destroy habitats, forcing numerous species to leave the area, thus threatening their way of life. Another way in which human interaction threatens biodiversity is overexploitation or excessive amounts of hunting or fishing. Species can only reproduce so fast, it is nearly impossible for them to reproduce at the same rate that humans are exploiting them. With all the natural causes in human interaction that are threatening the plant and animal species, our planet is facing another mass extinction that presents consequences to the environment and human health and livelihood. However, there are many non-profit organizations that have made it their primary goal to conserve wildlife and educate the people of the world of our planet and its diverse species and ecosystems. There are countless wildlife conservation foundations and organizations. It seems, however, though, that all of these numerous foundations have the same goal: protect endangered species, raise awareness for climate change and its repercussions, and educate the world's people and preserve ecosystems. Fortunately, organizations like the World Wildlife Fund have already gotten businesses to invest in creating local jobs and strengthening the economy and using clean energy. People of different communities are coming together to redesign their buildings and modes of transportation in order to make them more resilient against the climate. Not only the World Wildlife Foundation, but various other foundations and nations across the world have committed themselves to the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is based around climate change and always in ways in which to reverse and prevent the effects of it. The Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation is a huge advocate for the Paris Agreement and was very active in setting its precedent. The Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation is another foundation that was specifically dedicated to helping improve the long-term health and well-being of the planet's inhabitants, with the help of many partnerships. In terms of pollution and climate change, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation's goal is to reduce the amount of carbon emitted into the air by making it more expensive to do so, in hopes that it will sway people away from using anything that emits carbon. Another goal of the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation is to have 100% climate literacy by the year 2020. Thoughtful people can differ on the best solutions to any crisis, but it's impossible to make effective action. Key decision makers are operating without the facts. Along with the conventional ways to protect and preserve wildlife and biodiversity, there are a few researchers and activists that have taken it to the next level. Biodiversity warrior Carrie Fowler has a hidden vault under the Arctic Circle that contains hundreds of crops that have helped humanity since our ancestors first began to harvest crops. Fowler and his team were very adamant about doing this in order to ensure that we have a diverse food supply that can help us stand against climate change and famine. Another concept brought forth by the Leibniz institution is genome resource banking. This is done by taking reproductive tissue from different species and freezing them. They can later be thawed and used to reproduce the specific animal should it become endangered or extinct. This method also poses no risk of disease transmission for distant, isolated, wild, or captive populations. These foundations, whether they are more conventional or go above and beyond, are focusing on mitigating the impact of all these unforeseen devastation caused by nature or human impact, interaction, or neglect. There are over 7 billion people on planet Earth. There are minor things that every person can do to help wildlife. No act is too small. If everyone helped even in a minor way, we could have a major impact. There are many things that can be done by people at home that want to help out without being part of an organization. One single person or group of people can adopt an animal from the wild and promise to take care of that individual animal. There is also volunteer work that can be done at a variety of different places. This can include cleaning beaches or rescuing wildlife. A simple act such as visiting the local zoo, aquarium, national park, or wildlife refuge can offer a lot of information on endangered animals and ways to prevent harming them further. Donations are always a good way to help, and this usually comes in the form of a ticket to the zoo or nature reserve. The cost of the ticket is used in large part to help with the maintenance of conservation areas. Speaking up about wildlife conservation, not purchasing products made from endangered animals, pitching in, recycling, restoring destroyed habitats, and joining organizations that advocate for the protection of biodiversity are just a few ways that people throughout society can contribute to wildlife conservation. Humankind has not woven the web of life, but we are but a thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together, all things connect. Chief Seattle. Our actions have a ripple effect that the planet, our livelihood, our species diversity, our ecological diversity, and the well-being of our planet is left up to us to preserve. Raising awareness of the threats of our wildlife and biodiversity is the only way to protect it. We get one planet, one chance to keep this earth a sustainable one. We need to, as a society, treat it as such.